Good morning, Dad Talk today. Hope everybody is doing well. It is the pre-Thanksgiving episode. I am still trying to figure out what we're going to do for Thanksgiving. I think I'm just going to do something similar to today, but I want to hear more of your calls. I can't do that if we don't hear from you. So if you hear the voicemails today, or if you called in, thank you so much. Or if you want to talk to us, number is 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. Please get those coming in. Today, I want to introduce you to somebody. He's been on here before. He's been all over the country with us. Definitely a fighter in the cause. And his favorite two words in this whole world is D's nuts. His name is Mr. Mark Esquivel.
Got him.
What up?
What's happening from the West Coast? West Coast, East Coast.
So just to give a little context, there might be somebody that was uncalled for. You know, look, man, when we were doing these trips, Mark's been privy to several of them. There was a lot of long weeks and a lot of long days and a lot of traveling. I know one time we started off in Idaho, went to Washington State, and then flew into Washington, D.C. all in the same day. And you talk about being tired. Well, for some reason, along the way, these nuts became the thing that kept us entertained. And if you know any good D's Nuts jokes, we would love to hear them. I think we've just about heard them all. But yeah, man, been a lot that's going on. So what have you been up to, Mark?
A lot of advocacy. Two bills that actually benefited parents that a senator backed out here in California. One was to restrict CPS. The other one was to restrict license suspension due to back child support. And coming out of COVID, it kind of makes sense. People lost their jobs. You got all this free funding for college, tuition. Oh, I can't pay my tuition, so let's give you some free money because you can't pay your tuition. But they didn't get any relief to child support. So I have to actually make a correction for Chris. I said Bill 1085 the other day when he was on. Sorry, Chris, need to make a retraction. It's Bill 1055. That's the license suspension bill out here in California. 1085 is actually the higher standard for CPS to remove a child. So yeah, just those bills in between fighting, my own court battle. And helping out, other parents, just, protect themselves and learn their rights.
Yeah.
You and I get calls daily, so.
Yes, definitely. Mark, tell everybody why you got into this movement and some of the things you've done while you're in it. I know that you have been fighting towards this cause for a very long time. I just want you to give, a decent intro to yourself and let everybody know who you are.
Sure. So Mark Esquivel, I'm out of Northern California. I actually had an amicable divorce in 2011, 2012. We did a 50-50 split. The ex and I actually went to the co-parenting class together. We did week on, week off. We split the holidays. If, one parent wanted 4-day weekend, like take the Thursday to go on vacation somewhere, we would give the other parent a notice. If we wanted to do a 2-week vacation, maybe travel somewhere, we agreed to give the other parent a 21-day notice so they could rearrange. So my divorce was actually fairly amicable because we came together as parents and said, do we want to spend all of our money fighting in court and put the lawyers' kids through college, or do we want to put our kids through college? And we agreed our kids come first. So yeah, amicable divorce in 2012. And ironically, I still lived in my little, middle class bubble. I thought anybody that, was in court, that there had to be some sort of a problem. No one goes to court on purpose.
Right.
And so it's been about 11 years I've been dealing with court stuff. But my first false accusation actually came 4 years after my divorce, when I had a live-in girlfriend. And the false accusation wasn't made against me. It was made against her. And then from there, it's just ramped up. I'm not at level or any of the other advocates, but, I'm in the teens, so to speak, of the false accusations.
What do you think is the hardest thing you've had to endure during that process?
Watching the girls be abused and still be abused to this day. I just got out of an SST meeting at the school 2 days ago, and my girls were just innocent, kind, little, played sports, were on the honor roll, little surfer girls, skater girls, growing up in a little beach community. And what we had agreed on was we weren't going to lives upside down just because we were getting a divorce. And in my situation, my ex got lost, out for about 18 months. The divorce process started in 2011 for me, but we still, after 18 months infidelity, we still remained friends and said, okay, we have to do what's best for the kids. And a nasty divorce is what's best for the kids.
Right.
And so then 2016, it just started going, downhill and just getting worse and worse and worse. My oldest daughter is still on the honor roll, but she's been forced to take, it's called continuation school through Oasis out here. And she goes to school at night because her mom is forcing her to work during the day to help pay bills. My middle daughter is not being as successful. She's actually failing out of school. That's why we're having so many meetings with her. And she's just been forced. She's 15. She's just been forced to go to work 2 days a week. So how can you expect a child to get good grades and, still not be affected by this divorce 11 years later when this is what they're being put through? So it went from amicable to now it's not amicable. And it's because attorneys got involved and false accusations, were made. And court is nowhere that children should be, and strangers shouldn't be telling you what you should or shouldn't do or how you should or shouldn't raise your children.
Absolutely. Guys, it's early morning. I know a lot of people are at work. If you could do us one favor really quick, make sure to like, share, and subscribe this podcast. We need as much help as we can getting this out there because, some of the stuff that Mark is talking about right now, we hear all the time. I wasn't as familiar with the false allegation side of this. Of course, I had all kinds of things that was said about me that wasn't true. But this is such a taboo subject because we're talking about allegations of molestation or physical violence. And that is such a dangerous thing because who in the world wants to be a parent that has been accused of such a thing? And the other part that makes it hard, Mark, is that there are children out there that this is happening to, and we want to protect them. Unfortunately, it has made its way inside a family court as a way to get the upper hand. And so, when I started this to talk about family law, I didn't realize just how bad the false allegations were. And I had more and more parents coming out to me about it. And yes, much like judges or anybody else that probably covers this subject, when they would come to me about it, I tried to wiggle out of it. It was like, I don't ever want to be that guy that possibly talked to a parent that did such a thing. But I think after a while, and you've heard these stories, and they play a lot of the same tricks, you start to have very good discernment on who you're talking to and what's going on. But for somebody like me or anybody that might be watching that's not familiar with that, what is that like for you as a father to go through those type of allegations towards your kids, these kids that you love, and to hear that these type of allegations are being made towards you?
At first, you don't believe it. You're like, real person would stoop this low? I mean, it was only a few years ago that we were completely on the same page. And then this person that, I spent 16 years with, 18 total, is now just on this campaign, to vilify you. And at the same time, you start questioning, do you are kids, or do you hate me more? And a lot of it comes down to choices, and trauma. Some people go through trauma that it re-triggers things. The ex had some losses of family members, some convictions. Those trigger childhood traumas. And so sometimes it's in your control, and then sometimes that other person's just going through the motions. But you have to be able to come back and center yourself, or go get help. And that's the biggest part of it. If you don't recognize that you need help, just like alcoholics, if they don't recognize they need help, they won't go to AA. With mental illness, if you're still living in this false sense of a delusional life, you're not going to seek help, and you're going to think, oh, well, what I'm doing, because I'm bitter and angry against my ex, it's not harming my children. But and when you can't see, as they would say, you can't see the forest through the trees, you're just going to continue down that cycle of trauma. And that's cycle of trauma that the ex went through was imposed on her by her father, and then sadly it's now being transferred down to our daughters.
I'm a very strong supporter of fathers' rights, and although I know it happens to both sides, there's a reason why I get so boisterous about this. It's one thing to be going through any type of allegations in the United States of America. It's an even worse if you are a man, because the society has been told, you have to protect women. And which, guess what? I believe that, but you need to protect your men too. That was where the conversation came from the other day, where, I don't believe any man should hit a woman, but I also don't believe any woman should hit a man. But when these type of allegations get made, if you are a man, people are so quick to believe whatever is said about you. And that is just so sad, man. I mean, what is that like? You talked a little bit about it, but did you have anybody that maybe didn't understand the story that started to treat you different? Because, the sad thing is, again, it's one thing for an allegation to be made, but we have this thing known as social media. People are quick to react. They don't do their homework or anything. They hear something and they're just going to give their thoughts on it, right away, instead of saying, hey, I might need to find out a little bit more information about that. So I would imagine, maybe not, but I would imagine there would be people that might even been, pretty close to you that started giving you a cold shoulder after this.
You can actually see it in their face. Prime example is when I went into the school to get some information, because that's one of the big areas that the pathogenic parent will actually start their obstruction, is they'll start it at the school. Little things like they'll leave you off the emergency contact, or just recently, the meeting Monday I went in, and they had removed my parents off of the emergency contact. So it starts with little things like that. But when you come in, you can see like the secretary or the assistant principal or the academic counselor. You can just see it in their face when they're talking to you. You can see people's mannerisms and how they act, and they're looking at you like, okay, yeah, he's here for this information, but you can see them judging you through their eyes, basically, because I mean the eyes are the window to the soul, and
Right.
people can't fake those thoughts that are running through their head. And I have proof that X came in and basically said I did X, Y, and Z, to the girls or to my youngest. And so now you're fighting an uphill battle with someone that doesn't know you, that's heard a false story, but don't know that it's a false story. So they've got it on face value. And I'm never going to address it and say, oh, hey, did someone come in here and falsely accuse me of something? Because then when you start talking in a defensive manner, you almost sound like you're guilty. So I actually don't even reference the false accusation or give it, any legs, so to speak, unless someone brings it up to me. Then when they bring it up to me, then I say, well, you got 5-10 minutes. I'll give you the story. Here's what's going on. And it took me a couple of months. The entire school is on board now. There was about 3 or 4 of them that were just fully obstructed until I learned the whole story. And that's just at the school, not to mention then there's your work. Then, you go to the grocery store because we live in a small town. Everybody knows everybody here. So yeah, you got friends, you got family. It affects everybody. It's not just like the ex made a false accusation against you. It hurts the kids. It hurts extended. It hurts friends. So it's not just a one shot to get back at you for the relationship ending. It's a shot at everybody in the community. So
Yeah, and that brings in another conversation, unpopular conversation. I talk about it sometimes. I know a lot of people don't like my comments on it, but when I believe in co-parenting, I believe in communication. When you have one of these parents that would make these type of false allegations, knowingly that they are making false allegations, which that can be a sticky subject sometimes too. I think a lot of these parents will sometimes make allegations or say things knowing that they're lying. 5 minutes later, they believe it's truth. But I've said, as far as talking to other people that might not know about it, of course, you need to let people know what goes on. But when it comes to communicating back and forth with a person that would knowingly make these type of accusations, or that is just coming at you using the child as a weapon, I think it's about as effective as vacuuming your backyard. It does you no good. You're dead. What does that say? You wrestle with pigs, you both get dirty, and the pig likes it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
All you're going to do is drive yourself insane. But then you add these.
Well, and you and I know because. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, brother.
Well, you and I know because we hear so many stories, and people get PTSD from this, and so they constantly think that if they keep telling their story over and over again, that like someone's not going to think that they're not guilty. But a lot of times from your trauma, if you constantly just repeat your story over and over again to these people, they start actually thinking, well, maybe they did do something because they're so defensive. But the defensive mechanism is because of the PTSD that people are suffering, that the court, puts them through. So we try to help people and just say, the hardest thing is try not to get too emotional. Like if the subject comes up or you're trying to tell your story to somebody, just try and stay, in control and in the moment. Because we've heard, as you would call it, diarrhea of the mouth. We're like, look, we're not your therapist, but you got to kind of reel that in a little bit because, it's making you sound crazy.
Man, I could rattle off at the mouth for quite a while. And what I think that problem is, I think, again, because of the bias of men, the lack of resources that we have, there's no domestic violence shelters for men. I think there might be one in America out of the thousands that exist. So men aren't hearing other men talk about their problems. And another part of that reason why is, what I said the other day, men aren't afraid to express their emotions. They're afraid of telling their emotions to somebody who's going to use it against them or make it a weapon later on. So what you've seen
Yep.
ultimately is a lot of people be silent on this issue. Now, when you start going through things such as divorce or somebody taking your kid, I don't know what's going to make people much more emotional than that. That's an emotional situation. There's going to be anger, there's sadness, there's going to be depression, the whole 9 yards. So I think when people finally get somebody to talk to about it, it's like, I want to get this out. I want to get this out because I've been holding it all in. And a lot of times what it does is it does run people away, unfortunately. It's learning how to compress down that story, ask different questions. And you know what? I think one of the healthiest things is getting involved in advocacy, making sure that this gets out there. Because at the end of the day, we are all here because of our stories. But we are also fighting on behalf of millions of parents that are going through this. People don't change laws because of one story. They change laws because there is a lot of people affected by it. Even then, it is very hard to get that done. But we have to create that safe space for these guys to come in, and there needs to be somewhere for them to vent, which there is. And that was not a setup for a promo. But the Dad Talk Today support group, guys, 100% free. Go in there. It's a private group where you can talk to other parents and vent. That is your place to vent. Mark is one of the administrators in there. So is Robert Garza and several other people. Every single post gets looked at. And we want to make sure we have that spot so these guys can nurture that without feeling like, if I do this here, it's going to be used as a weapon. That's one of the hardest things. I think with love, one of the ways we build love in relationships is it starts off with communication. Then communication turns into trust. And through communication and trust, and as you get attached to somebody, you start to love them, right? Well, a lot of times in that communication, you're telling these people very intimate things about your life because you want to show vulnerability and how I want to be a better person and how I want to be a better person with and for you. And then later on, that connection that you was trying to use becomes a weapon formed against you. That is sad, man. How many of you guys that are listening in right now have had one of those really heartbreaking moments that you share with somebody that later becomes the rock that's thrown in your face every day? Did you have any of that happening to you, Mark?
Yeah. So a couple things come to mind. Listening to Brooks talk the other day, and we deal with this a lot. Like I said, we get calls every day. I've gone through it. I've dealt with it. I've talked to people off the ledge from committing suicide. But when he referenced just getting out of bed, some days, I've had that. Going through the divorce, men don't talk about or breaking down because we're supposed to be the rock. I've had those breakdowns. I won't admit any of them, but I've been in the shower, Friday night, drop the girls off, come home, and the house is empty. And you go take a shower, you just get back from the gym, and all of a sudden you're all just in the shower, breaking down, crying. You're not going to tell anybody about that. Maybe your family and some close friends or a significant other. But yeah, that hit home when Brooks was talking about that the other day, because I've gone through it, where you just don't want to get out of bed someday, brush your teeth or comb your hair or take a shower. And that's a big part of this. I mean, we've got, 22 veterans a day just saying, no, thanks, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. And then you run them through, the mill of the court system. They've got now or PTSD and now courtroom PT. And I understand it. And the other thing that you touched on is resources. We have people with kids in Sacramento. They were home and they went to a shelter, and they needed a place to stay. They had 3 kids with them, mom, dad, and kids. And they said, "You can come in, mom, with the kids, but you got to get rid of dad." And so they refused to let the family in just because the parents were together, and they were homeless, living in a car. So yeah, we definitely need more resources for dads in every state. Because yeah, I've gone through it. We've all gone through it. This part is, admitting it, let alone to your significant other or, a good friend, but on social media, coming out here and going, yeah, I've broke down a number of times because I couldn't figure out, how do I protect the innocence of my daughters? What can I do? I've had physical ailments from that because I couldn't figure it out. Like I was trying to protect my daughter's innocence, first from the divorce, then from court, then from the false accusations, then from the brainwashing, the pathogenic parenting. And yeah, it eats at you mentally and physically.
You bring up a couple of good points I want to touch on really quick. I don't think that is talked about enough. Here you've been in this marriage, maybe you've been in it 5-10 years, whatever. You have your routines, you go to work, you come home, you eat supper, watch a movie, whatever, but you're used to that home being full. And then when this happens, and now the kids are having to go to different homes, and then you're in that home that was once filled with your family, and now it's just you. Those are the moments where this really hits, man. I'll never forget that. That was one of the hardest moments for me as well. Like, I've never been without my kids, and now here I am, not only without my kids, I'm just by myself. It's rough, man. And that's a lot of what these guys are experiencing. Talking about lack of resources, it's a show I think I did a couple of years ago where the gentleman had a wife that was beating him, beating his kid too, making them sleep on the floor, not eating and everything. And somebody might say, well, how did a man let that happen? He didn't want to touch her. He was afraid that if he fought back, what was going to happen to him? And so him and the kid was involved in this. Mark, they went to 5 different domestic violence shelters. 5. And this was a veteran too, by the way. They get turned away from every single one.
Yeah. It's sad. I've been there. I've had, I've got old school values. So I've had hands put on me. I've never put a hand on a woman. That's not how I was raised. But if I did, I would be in jail. So there's a bias there that, and I raised by a single mom. So don't take this the wrong way. I love you women. So don't get upset at me, but there's a bias. You can hit me and not go to jail. But I can't hit you, nor would I ever hit you. But if I did, I would be in jail immediately. I mean, I've had my face ripped up before I had to fly to a meeting in Houston. I've had the cops called on me and told that all the blood dripping down your face and the bruises and this, that, and the other, I'm just going to say that I did that because you were attacking. And I literally had to sit down and say, well, here's how this is going to go. The cops are going to take us both to jail, and the kids are going to go to CPS. And so she went to the door and actually said, no, there's no domestic violence. So at that point in time, she still was a rational thinker, but had the, she was getting coached by her friends to, do this, do that, file this, file that. So I've been in those situations, and yeah, I wish I had more resources at the time to go through. My family and friends, thankfully, I've got a big family and a large group of friends that I could lean on. Some people don't, though. Some people don't have, large families. Some people don't have, large groups of friends. Some people are isolated, in smaller communities. And that's where, back to the Dad Talk, support group and Dad Talk Today in general, it gives what I wake up every day, wanting to have and to give to other people. It gives people hope. So Dad Talk Today and Dad Talk Today support group, it's for men and women, but the big thing that it encompasses is it gives people hope. Like, you hear it all the time. I know you don't get enough praise, but you're giving hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, hope every single day. While you get up, you come into the studio, and you just say, look, I wish I had this help. I'm going to give it to as many people as I can. And I do the same thing, even if I'm struggling and I step away from my court case, and all of us, Robert, Jeff, Melissa, everybody, they step away from their own time to do this. We're not getting paid, but we know how valuable hope is. And if you have hope, that's what'll get you out of bed, the next day that Brooks was talking about, or that's what allow you to read through a transcript and then, maybe file a paperwork that takes you 3 days to fill out because you're with the emotional PTSD of having to reread stuff that's triggering you, and then go protect your kids. So for everyone out there, kudos to you, brother. I love you like family, and Robert and everybody else, Melissa, Jeff, the whole gang.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, man. Guys, make sure to get those calls in. I think what I'm wanting to do is tomorrow. We're about to get to your voicemails. I think what I'm wanting to do, but I'd have to get them in tonight. I'll play it tomorrow, but I want to get this done so I can go have, Thanksgiving with my family. But if you guys got something that you want to say to your kids on Thanksgiving, and if you got a question, comment, or you want to vent or whatever, but if there is something that you would like to say to your kids or your families, maybe we got some vets that are out of country right now and they're not going to be able to be with their family on Thanksgiving. Give me those voicemails so I can play them online. I'd love to get those within the next few hours. 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. The other side of that, Mark, and, I do it. I heard you do it, talking about, look, I'm sorry, I don't mean anything by this, but, there is a bias. I think we're starting to get to a point that we can't be apologetic anymore. I think the people that knows what is wrong with this system, they know it and they get it. And that's one thing I've realized with the politics and everything that we've been doing. Maybe we have been holding back. I really think we are fighting a culture war right now. And I'm hoping that we can turn this thing around. And it's going to take all of you guys' help. Even right now, like, share, subscribe, get this video out there, because I guarantee you there's a dad out there that needs to hear what we're talking about. But we're only as good as the ones that support us, right? But if you don't get to catch this right now, or if you're tuning in and you can't see it all, this will replay at 8:00 p.m. Eastern tonight. We're going to do this every night as long as I can. And sorry, I know not completely dressed up and got the thing going on. I've been hunting, Mark. That's been my thing, to decompress from all of this. And everybody needs something like that. I believe your thing is what, surfing?
Yeah. Surfing, road biking, mountain biking, anything outdoors. I actually, so one of our routines on the week on, week off was I would pick the girls up and we would go grab our skate. We've got what's called the east side and the west side of Santa Cruz. You've been to both. And we would just go skateboard up and down, the paved trail next to the beach on Fridays. And then we'd go to the little market at the point and eat dinner, and then we'd skateboard back. They're not getting to do that right now. They're not as active. My middle daughter, sadly, is failing out of PE, if you can imagine that. All you have to do is show up to PE. And so that the memories, had those memories in a while. And so that's all you take with you. That you get one life, and you try to make as many good memories as possible. And when, time lapses and you don't get those memories, then you think back, wow, I used to do this or I used to do that. I was just talking with the parents the other day. We like to watch Survivor. And so the girls would come and they would sit on either side of me. You have, two on one side or the other. One had to be on one side of me, and my other daughter had to be on the other side of me. So we could just they would lean into my shoulder and we'd watch Survivor together. We haven't done that in 2 years. So you miss out on those memories. And that's sad.
Yeah, guys, get us in those shout outs. I definitely want to get those on. And it's little things like that. Don't underestimate them. There's power in that. And don't let me forget, I got a question to ask you before we get off today. But I want to get into these voicemails. Keep them coming to us, guys. 762-441-0281. Here is our first caller.
Hey, Eric, it's Cody Taylor. I'm listening to you and Dr. Brooks McKenzie talk. Man, that guy is a stallion when it comes to fighting for children and families going through not just alienation, but just pure child abuse by judges, lawyers, amicuses, and then licensed professional counselors and child custody evaluators who want to keep the drama going. He personally has reviewed a lot of my case information and proved that licensed professional counselors hired independently by the mother for a legal agenda completely violated their rules, ethics, and even committed aggravated perjury, yet nothing's being done. So what can we do? What can a civilian who doesn't go to law school, who doesn't play this? In fact, the attorneys, while I was sitting on the witness stand, even asked me what my bar license was, knowing that I never was a lawyer and never probably will be. But at the end of the day, that's the caveat. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to basically say the law is written only for the lawyers who go to school, spend the time, charge the money, and then can sit there and question you over how you are as a parent, even though you've never been convicted of a crime, abuse, never had a case open with CPS, Department of Family Protection Services, yet they sit there and hand pockets of money to a judge that's going to rule against you if you go pro se or even have another attorney. I have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in over 5-6 years fighting for my daughter, and all I ever wanted was equal time. Dr. Brooks is a warrior, and we look forward to seeing what he's going to do in this next portion of it. Love to talk to you. It's Cody Taylor from Texas. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye.
All right, man. I'm sorry I played that a little bit late. Looks like he was calling in from the Brooks McKenzie show. Guys, if you did not see that episode, go back. I think it was either 2 or 3 days ago. You can find all of our videos in the video section. Dr. Brooks knocked it out of the park. He really did do a good job, but he brings in an interesting point, Mark. That's when we go to these political things, it's like when you tell people what's going on with the system, you seem to get the same answers over and over and over ad nauseum. I can almost tell you what some of these responses are going to be before we get them. But again, going back to that senator that I was interviewing at CPAC earlier this year, and he tells me, you know what you guys need to do? You need to go and educate the judges. You need to go tell them what's going on. We, the parents who just want to be parents, need to go and educate people that went to law school and works in this every single day as to what's going on. And I think they purposely made this system so difficult because that's why most people rush out and get an attorney. It's not that you can't tell somebody what's going on in your case. You've got to do the proper filings, use the proper wording, the whole 9 yards. It's like learning a completely different language. All these guys want to do is see their kids. It should not be that difficult.
Yeah. Again, we're not attorneys. We don't give legal advice. We just opine. But what I would give my opinion about for Cody is each parent needs to have 50-50 legal. They'll obstruct your custody all day long. They have to put themselves on the line to obstruct your 50-50 legal. So if you still have that in play, there's every other avenue, whether it's church, whether it's activities and sports, whether it's, the school, that you can still be a part of your child's life. And I would just say, get involved, there at the school. Maybe learn the education codes that basically state what you can and can't do, but you can get involved at the school. You can show up at all the sports. The other parent can't block you from that. And then if they do block you from that, because you have 50-50 legal, it actually gives you some recourse and a remedy to go back to the court and say, look, this person just refuses to you may have given them temporary, full custody, but we both have 50-50 legal. And I'm not being informed of doctor's visits or dentist visits or, eye doctors or therapy appointments. I'm being obstructed at the school. I was removed, from the emergency contact form. That shows a pattern. If you're in front of a corrupt judge, you're not going to get anywhere. A judge that's already tied to the opposing counsel, which we know 1,000 times over. But those are some of the remedies that Cody could possibly use, and he's got the custodial interference in Texas, which is huge. I think every state, needs to build up a group. Start a little community with 5 or 10 people in your county, and then just start building it out from there. County by county, and just teach people what what you've gone through, because that's what we do. I mean, we're not experts, but we know what we've gone through and we've experienced.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, a perfect segue. I didn't do the disclaimer. Neither of us are attorneys. This is not legal advice. We're just parents on here that know a little bit about the system and like to talk
We're dads.
about it.
Hey, we're sticking with dads. Yeah, we're parents when parents when the wife is in the room, but right now we're.
That's right, with these nuts.
Yeah, right.
All right, we are going to get on to our next caller. I appreciate you calling in there, brother. Give us a call, 762-441-0281.
Yes, hi, my name is Eugene Boycar. I met you in Baltimore City while running for city council. My case is ongoing, but I just want you to know, it is so great to see a lot of people going. It's not good to see a lot of people going through this, but it's so good to see that you're bringing a lot of us out and to hear a lot of these men's stories. The parental alienation is real. After 4 years of not seeing my daughters and trying to chase them because the mother would move out of state without permission from the court, and the court seems to not do anything about this. When I finally saw my daughters, it was like I was a complete stranger to them. These girls, we grew up as daddy's little girls, but now when they look at their father, all I see is their mother anger, to maintain and control the situation. It was shocking, but I prepared for it, that my daughters miss their father so much. They have no reason to hate their father, but yet when they looked at me, all I could see was there was anger. And my youngest daughter said to me, "Where were you? It's mommy is the one that's raising me." So I just want to tell a lot of men, it's real. Parental alienation is real. But we have to have faith in God, and we have to prepare each other and support one another, and we just got to stay strong. I'm telling people this as I myself went through it. I went through protective order, just, a lot of women use that just to get leverage in the court because no judge want to touch that. And we have a real fight on our hands. But I think my hope is that we keep on having shows like this to educate one another. If we can't even control the situation, we can at least help other men out. That's why I even started my organization, Straight Fatherhood, so we can help younger men before they get in this situation. Once again, thank you so much for what y'all are doing. May God bless y'all, and may God bless every good father out there that are fighting for their kids. Keep on fighting, brothers, because when I hear y'all fight, it makes me keep on fighting too. All right? God bless y'all. Bye.
Eugene, man, I know exactly who that is. Eugene actually ran for office up in Baltimore, and I tell you, man, it's uh, me and Robert went to Baltimore several months back. I lose track of time, but it was sometime earlier this year, and we went to the heart of Baltimore City. I mean, dude, I know people know Kim Klacik and her video where she was walking down the streets of Baltimore. There was parts of Baltimore that it's like a third world country, man. It was bad. We got invited to a church. And so what we went and did is we went and had like a round table. Several fathers from the community showed up wanting to be a part of this. These were guys that were going through family law issues. And Mark, when we did this, I think every single one of those guys, but one, grew up in a fatherless home. Only one of them came to where there was a father in the home. And that was just mind blowing. The next day, we went back. It was crazy. I was invited. The reason I was up there was to go talk at this political conference. And so I did, and I was honored to do that. And there was a lot of the big wigs that was at that. But while I was up there, after we had went to the heart of Baltimore City, I said, that's where I want to go back to. I felt more called to be there than anywhere else we've ever been. And so what we did, without being invited or anything, we go right back into this place that a lot of people won't step foot in, right? And we start visiting the substance abuse clinics, tell them what we're doing. And it was so cool, man. A lot of them came out, went and showed us to new businesses, told them what we were doing there. And so we had a lot of the drug addicts actually came out and interviewed with us right there on the street. And then we had a lot of the workers, everything that came in, and every one of them came from fatherless homes. Every single one of the addicts that were there. Now, I mean, if we had kept interviewing, maybe we would have gotten some different numbers, but that's a pretty alarming statistic right there. But hearing what a lot of those fathers the night before that roundtable were going through, the fight that they were doing to try to be that dad in the home. And then now we see the fatherless statistics, and they're very apparent there in Baltimore. Man, I still got a lot of video I haven't gotten to edit down for people to see it, but I definitely want to get that out there because it is a war we're fighting, man. It really is. But Eugene, as a warrior there, you got to see that guy when he gets fired up talking about this, man. Oh, dude, they him in the streets of Baltimore one day with a microphone, and he was out there just screaming like, let me tell you. And I was like, wow, captivating speaker. But when he showed up to that meeting, boxes and boxes of files to where he had been fighting his case, and brought all the pictures and was just sitting there crying. But those are Mark, when they're not seeing their kid, or because they're not there, people who say, he's just a deadbeat, no matter how hard, and that's what pisses me off so bad.
Well, a couple things come to mind. Number one was when you asked them, did any of the constituents or anybody come down here, and they told you, no, you guys are the only ones that have ever come in here. That statement alone speaks volumes. And secondly, we've got a 50,000 person homeless camp out here in LA called Skid Row. Same as Maryland. It's in every city. But I'm not shocked that when they say they came from fatherless homes, because we know the statistics. I mean, 82%, 82.5. That's the government's own statistics. Dad's the non-custodial parent, and I despise that term, because when you're married or when you're in a relationship, your children get you 100% of the time. Doesn't matter what your work schedule is. Y'all come home and you go to sleep under the same roof. And then when you get separated or divorced, now all of a sudden, dad gets 20%. That doesn't make an ounce of sense. And there was a deposition here by a really famous attorney who sues CPS, and he interviewed the lead psychiatrist, the director of LA County DCFS, Department of Child and Family Services. And he stated in his own words, unless there's exigent circumstances, removing a child from the home not only violates the child and the parent's constitutional rights, but it does physical damage to the brain, trauma to the brain. It affects the development of the brain. And this is the director of DCFS in LA County. So if he's not the expert and what he says is not the rule, who is, and why are we making dads non-custodial 82.5% of the time across the country?
Heck, dude, Texas 91%.
Yeah, not only is it hot in there, but you're actually living in hell.
I mean,
You're going to court.
20% is actually really good compared to a lot of the cases that we're hearing, man.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because they know you will pay to go through this system. How do you protest against this system, not do it? Well, that means not seeing your kids. I've heard the saying, "Oh, everybody just needs to stop paying child support."
That's not it.
In.
That's not it. That's to me, that's like the shell game, you know, when you go down to a little market and the guy puts the ball under the 3 shells and, hey, put your $10 down and try and find the ball under that's all that court is. It's the shell game. Hey, I put your kid under this shell and I'm going to rotate these 3 shells around and you might get lucky. 1 out of 3 chances you might get to see your kid.
Yep. Absolutely, man. All right, guys, we're going to get on to this next call. Keep them coming in. 762-441-0281.
Hey guys, I just wanted to say thank you for doing what you're doing. I've been fighting to see my daughter for 5 years in court. I'm finally having video phone calls with her with a counselor. Just wondering if you can touch on the topic of reconnecting and reintegration, like with my daughter. Just since we started talking on the phone, it's been difficult. She doesn't have many memories. And it feels like we're starting from scratch. But if you guys can touch on that, and just a word to the guys out there, keep fighting, don't give up, and keep trying to see your kids. Thanks for what you guys do. Appreciate it.
You know,
5 years. Wow.
I mean, I will definitely talk on it, but I think me and you are kind of in the same boat as this gentleman. You know, it's been 4, 5 for me. I often have the conversation. Last time I saw my child, she was a baby, and her first words and the only words she was saying was "Dada." It was like, if I ever get that chance again, she's gonna have no clue who I am. You know, they talk about reunifying. I just, you know, at least you are getting to see her. You know, you might not be able to make up for that lost time. More than likely, you're not going to be able to. But you're going to have to build upon what you have now. And my advice, or, you know, just been talking, would be build those new memories. And then hopefully something will click later. I've got a great relationship with my dad. It's good. We had to rebuild, but I wonder what happened back then. And I'm sure that day is going to come. You know what I mean? Like when they start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, you know, some people say that doesn't happen. I think that's more for the ones that just get completely shoved out of their life, you know, for 10 years or whatever, and don't see them again until they're adults. But if you're getting that time now, build on those new memories. Try to protect your heart. I know a lot of people want to go straight to their kids and this is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. That is still a child. Their shoulders were not meant to bear the weight of their parents' problems. They got enough going on. Look at this world right now. Our kids got so much that they've got to go through. So I would say just make every day the best that you can. Make sure that they know you love them. And, you know, hang in there, brother. I definitely appreciate that call. Mark, you got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually very strong ones. I'm not a big believer in reunification. It's another part of the cottage industry, just like the guardian ad litems and, the therapists and the forensic psychologists and every little tentacle that comes off of the court. I equate it to, I went years and years without seeing my father. I didn't need a reunification camp when I eventually saw him when I was a teenager, but I went a long time, close to a decade. The fact that they force reunification camps onto separated parents and children doesn't make an ounce of sense to me. When they push that narrative, I want to see some scientific data behind it before I'll get behind it. We had some kids based on a court order and based on reunification therapy where parental alienation was flipped on the father in my town. It's currently going on right now. They had what are called handlers come to the grandparents' home, because that's where the daughter and the son were at, and physically remove them, practically stripping the daughter naked and manhandling the son, forcing them into a car, slamming their face. And this is an unmarked car. This is not police. Police stood by in the street while these handlers did this. Dragged these kids down to LA. They haven't been in school since. Their name's Maya and Sebastian Lang. I don't believe in that type of reunification. And my second thought on that is, if you were kidnapped and the FBI recovered you from whatever type of, let's say you get trafficked into a sex trafficking ring, or you're, overseas and you get kidnapped, they don't come back and say, oh, we need to take 6 months to reintegrate you into your family. They immediately bring you back and say, here's your family. So why do the courts think that they have more authority than an actual criminal kidnapping to keep you away from your child and say, oh, let's slowly bring you back in and create yet another traumatic event, besides the separation, by slow rolling, you immediately getting back and bandaging up that bond, because that bond never goes away. No. If your child has ever fell asleep on you as a baby, that bond is there. It's never going to go away. And I hear that from parents all the time. Well, what are they going to think? Well, that's why we have to stay healthy mentally, because when they do come back, we can't tell them, this gentleman, he can't bring out the past 5 years of trauma that he's gone through. He's got to keep that inside and still be dad when they come back.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Hey, man, I appreciate that question, and I hope that gets better for you. Keep us updated on that. I'd like to know how that one plays out. We're going to get to our last voicemail of the day, and I'll make some announcements after that before we end the show. But this is caller number 4.
What's up, Eric? Chris Clay calling from DFW. Just saw that you and Robert are live. Continue the great work, man. Love everything that you're doing. Continue to fight. Talk to you soon. Take care.
Little shout out. Hey, man, I love those too. I appreciate that. Guys, you want to talk about a case that will piss you off. Mr. Clay was one of the early guests on Dad Talk. Now, I'm going to explain this. It is condensed down form as I can. Chris had an ex in which he shared 50-50 custody with his child. Okay. She had a boyfriend that she had been with for like 6 to 9 months at this point in time. Well, she got in an accident and died. Okay. That is unfortunate. So what would happen in that instance if mom was primary parent, but they're sharing 50-50, mom passes away, you would think dad gets custody of his child. In the state of Texas, where we talk about this 91% and how they try to maximize these funds, Chris ended up in a lawsuit fighting for custody of his daughter from mom's live-in boyfriend. I kid you not. Chris spent to the tune of, I want to say, $300,000 to win custody of his daughter from a boyfriend. Let that one sink in. Could you imagine? I mean, it's bad enough having to, fight your ex just to be able to see your kids. But could you imagine having to fight a boyfriend, Mark, for custody of your kids?
Yeah, it's a stranger. I haven't had to fight custody, but the boyfriend or fake fiance, whatever you want to call it, was a big part of making the false accusations and dragging my daughter with the ex down to CPS to make them against my ex-girlfriend. So yeah, I know Chris's case, but I'm maybe 1/4 of what he went through. But yeah, I've experienced it, and it's ridiculous. Simps, as we call them, knight in shining armor. The simps give us a bad name. And I'll say it here. I don't really care. They're not real men. And I say the same to women. You're not a real woman. I was raised by a real woman. I was raised by a single mom. She would have never done any of this to my father. My father, well, let's just say he didn't live on the right side of the law, but I still got to see him. And men that are doing this, they're the simp for the woman that's playing the victim, but then victimizing their children. You're not a man. Your dad didn't raise you right.
I think in that particular case, it might have been the grandparents.
Yeah, I didn't want to say that. Yeah, but I knew the grandparents were the ones that forced the boyfriend to do it.
Instigating because they didn't have the rights to do it because there was a parent instead of, and then so it would automatically default to the parent. But again, what's that say to the state of Texas that would allow that to go on? And, that's when I say about not being apologetic about some of these things sometimes, Mark, there's you a case that would not have happened if it had been the other way around. Had that have been Chris that got in that accident, Mom wouldn't have been fighting a stepmom for custody of the kids. You would have never heard about that case. But because it was the dad and that they can milk some money out of it, and they milked a lot of money. Could you imagine $300,000? That's money you could have kept. You could have put towards the child's education, your house, whatever. You worked hard for that money. It's yours. You don't need to be fighting a boyfriend. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? We've made some really good relationships with some of these guys that we fought for over the years. And that's one I usually see when we head on down there to Texas. Chris, I appreciate the words. He's constantly sending words of encouragement and everything, man. And I just appreciate it so much. Guys, that is going to be it for the day. But stick around for a second because I want to talk to you about something. Again, tomorrow for Thanksgiving, I'm going to make an announcement on the page here in a second. I think rather than the call-ins, which I might take some call-ins too, but what I would like, you can either message this to the Dad Talk Today page, or you can leave us the voicemail. But if you wanted to make a short video saying something to your kids, you love them, especially vets, man. I would love to see, I'd love to see you with your family there on Thanksgiving. But if you're not there with your family, send us that video so we can play it on the air and make sure they get these messages. But I think that is a good time. Get that voicemail out, 762-441-0281. Again, that's 762-441-0281. On the way out, Mark. We're going to start it right now. And I hate to do this to you, but I want to give you this opportunity. If there was something that you could say to your kids as we end this show on Thanksgiving, what would it be?
What I always say to them, like I said, I just saw them on Monday. I tell them that I love them. I'm here for them. They can call and reach out to me at any time. I even apologize to them because of some of the stuff they're carrying around that they've been told that's not true. I said, I'm sorry that you believe that's a heavy weight and a heavy burden. But I always tell them that everybody loves them. Grandma and grandpa, they all love them. The brothers, their uncles, their nieces, nephews, the whole family still loves them, and we're all still here for them.
There you go, man. Well, brother, I hope you have a happy Thanksgiving. What food are you looking the most forward to?
So I'm a pumpkin pie. We used to go to my Aunt Mary and Uncle's house,
He's basic.
and my Aunt Mary would set aside a pumpkin pie, the whole pie, just for me. She goes,
Dang.
"Oh yeah, I'll eat a whole pie, especially with whipped cream all over it. Are you kidding me?" She'll set aside the whole pie, and then there's a pumpkin pie for everybody else. I know I'm surprised I'm not 400 pounds by the way I eat, but yeah, a pumpkin pie. And then two things before we leave, I wanted to recognize before we go out. One is, so you know what tomorrow is, Thanksgiving, right? The anniversary of John, your interview with John.
Yep.
And then one thing I want the audience to know, you touched on it before about some physical stuff that you went through, but that wasn't the only time, for you people out there that tune in. There's been a couple of times where Eric has been like physically sick, and that's how much this guy pushes himself to fight for all of us. You just heard about one of them. He didn't talk about the other one, earlier in the year. But again, kudos to you, brother. I love you like family, and I just want the audience to know, we don't get paid to do this. He doesn't get paid to do this. We're just doing this because we wish that we had hope at some of our darkest hours, and we're trying to give hope to everybody else. But yeah, you're a warrior, brother.
I do appreciate that, man. I think it was you that was with me when it started at CPAC. I think it was just me and you at that point in time. And it's just, it's triggering. I can only imagine what it's like for some of these parents. It's what I say, like, if watching this show brings your mood down, don't watch the show. And that's not something that a podcaster should be saying, because we need to get the viewers tuning in. And I know it's starting off a little slow right now because it's been so long since I've done it. But this kind of stuff, it's definitely triggering. So you got to find some balance, whether it's surfing, whether it's hunting, whatever. Make sure you're doing that. So if you don't get that opportunity to see your kids tomorrow, make sure you're doing something. Go see the family that you do have. Because you got to get through this. You've got to endure, no matter how hard it is. But I do too, man. It was an honor to get to come out there last year. My favorite movie of all time is The Lost Boys, and he lives right there where every single bit of that was shot. So yeah, it was cool, man, to actually see the amusement park Kiefer Sutherland and all of them was in. And then I was like, I remember that. What is the thing right before we get out? On the gliders, the little the little mannequins,
the people movers.
Yeah, what in the world is that, man? I mean, it's in the movie too. I didn't expect to see it there in person.
Yeah, it's like from the Stone Age or the Flintstones. It's just a Flintstone type, mannequin that's been up there, forever.
Yeah. That was pretty cool, man. If you haven't watched The Lost Boys, I don't know what world you're living in. It's still one of my favorite movies of all time. It doesn't have the same feeling because of that first person perspective. But I wish we had vampires nowadays that didn't glisten in the sun.
Right. Well, if you ever come out here again and it's during movie night, they actually play The Lost Boys on the beach for free on Friday nights in the summertime, in September, October-ish. So yeah, maybe we'll plan one of those out, and you just sit out on the beach right there at the boardwalk and watch The Lost Boys on a huge screen for free. It's free.
Awesome, man. Definitely gonna have to do that. I'm sure we'll make it back out. Hey guys, happy Thanksgiving. If I don't see you tomorrow, if I do, we're going to try to have something out there to you. 762-441-0281. Hey, Mark, I love you. Appreciate for coming on today, man.
Hey, love you too. And thank the wife and kids for letting us steal you as often as we do. Say hi to mom and everybody else. We love you guys.
All right, guys.
Hey everybody, Eric Carroll here. Thank you for tuning in to another exciting episode of Dad Talk Today. While we fight for you, we would ask for you to please help fight for us. like, subscribe to our channel, and ring that bell so you get notifications every time we go live. There's also Super Chats, patreon.com/dadtalktoday, and other ways you can support our channel. Thank you for being here, and we will see you next.